Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today, we're going to tackle The Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco.
Oh, interesting choice.
Right. It really flips the script on that whole get rich slow philosophy.
Yeah, he's definitely not a fan of that traditional approach.
So let's get right into it. What exactly does DeMarco have against the whole work, save, invest, retire thing? I mean, that's what we're all told to do, right?
His main argument is it kind of puts you at the mercy of things you can't control. Like, what happens if the stock market takes a nosedive right before you retire?
Yeah, that wouldn't be ideal.
He also thinks it makes you sacrifice your best years just hoping for a comfortable retirement that might not even be as fulfilling as you'd imagined.
That's a good point.
To illustrate this, he talks about seeing this Lamborghini as a teenager. It became this symbol of like wealth and freedom,
Yeah, I can see that.
It really ignited this desire in him to achieve financial independence early on in life instead of waiting until retirement.
So, not your typical delayed gratification kind of guy.
Not at all. He's all about figuring out how to get on the fast track to wealth. And that's where his 3 roadmaps come in: the sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane.
Okay, those sound intriguing. Let's break them down. What's the sidewalk all about?
It's kind of like, imagine trying to take shortcuts through a super sketchy area. You might find a few quick wins here and there, but it's not a sustainable path,
Got it. So like those lottery winners who end up broke a few years later because they didn't have a plan.
Exactly. Now, the slow lane, it's a bit more sensible, but it's got its own issues.
Issues like?
Well, think of it like taking the scenic route.
Yeah.
Sure, you're enjoying the journey, but you're moving at a snail's pace.
So the traditional route, job saving, compound interest, retirement.
That's the one. But the biggest downside is, well, it takes forever.
And time is something we can't get back.
Exactly. You're trading your most valuable asset, time, for a limited income.
And no guarantee you'll reach your goals before it's too late. So the fast lane, it's about, what, speeding things up a bit.
It's like taking the expressway. It might be a bit riskier, but you can potentially reach your destination a lot faster.
I like where this is going. Tell me more.
The fast lane is all about building businesses, creating value, leveraging systems, that kind of thing.
So you're not limited by trading your time for money.
That's the idea. And that brings us to the fast lane wealth equation, which is like completely different from the traditional wealth building formula.
Okay, let's hear it. What's this equation all about?
It emphasizes controlling assets that generate income, without needing your constant attention.
So it's not about just earning money. It's about building systems that can make money for you, even when you're not working.
Right. Now, a big question that comes up a lot is, can money really buy happiness? And DeMarco has some strong opinions about that.
I bet he does.
He argues that while money itself might not guarantee happiness, it can buy you something equally as valuable: freedom.
I can see that.
It gives you choices. You're not constantly stressed about bills. You have the freedom to pursue your passions, spend time with loved ones, travel, or whatever else brings you joy.
That makes a lot of sense.
But there's a catch. Lots of people fall into this trap of like lifestyle inflation.
Where their expenses keep growing as they make more money.
Exactly. DeMarco calls it lifestyle servitude.
Yeah.
Where people basically become slaves to their ever-increasing lifestyle.
They're just working to keep up with their spending.
Right. And that's the opposite of freedom.
So how do we avoid falling into that trap? What does DeMarco suggest?
He's a huge proponent of focusing on process over events.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break that down for me.
So he believes relying on things like winning the lottery or inheritance, it rarely leads to lasting wealth.
It's like a one-time lucky break that's not going to sustain you in the long run.
Right. True wealth comes from having a system, a process that just consistently creates value and generates income, regardless of what's happening around you.
So it's not about getting lucky, it's about building a system that works.
Exactly. He actually sees luck as a product of process.
Interesting take.
By putting in the effort, learning from your mistakes, taking calculated risks, you're basically increasing your chances of, getting lucky.
It's about creating your own luck, not waiting for it to happen.
That's it.
Now, DeMarco isn't exactly a fan of the traditional job, is he?
He acknowledges that jobs can be valuable for gaining experience and skills.
Sure, we all got to start somewhere.
But he doesn't think they should be the end goal.
So the fast lane is more about taking those skills and using them to build something bigger, something you own.
Absolutely. And that's where his critique of the 5-for-2 trade comes in.
What's that?
It's this idea that people exchange 5 days of their life for 2 days of freedom each week.
the Monday to Friday grind.
Exactly. The fast lane is about reclaiming ownership of your time and using it to build something that aligns with your vision, not someone else's.
I like that. So to help guide us on this journey, he gives us those 5 commandments, right?
He does. And they're not just suggestions. They're like foundational principles for building a successful fast lane business.
Okay, let's hear them. What are these commandments all about?
So we've got the commandment of need, the commandment of entry, the commandment of control, the commandment of scale, and the commandment of time.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
They're designed to help you create a business that actually solves a problem, stands out from the competition, gives you control, reaches a lot of people, and ultimately frees you from that whole trading time for money thing.
So it's like a framework for making sure your business idea has real fast lane potential.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm writing. Let's start with the first one, the commandment of need. What's DeMarco's philosophy on that?
He's a firm believer in chasing needs, not money. He says the most successful businesses solve problems.
They provide value, fill a gap in the market.
Right. He actually challenges that whole do what you love advice because it can lead to businesses that are more about passion than meeting a real need.
So it's not just about what you're excited about. It's about finding a need and creating a solution people are willing to pay for.
Yes. It's about finding those things that people complain about, the everyday annoyances.
So like brainstorming ways to make those things better.
Exactly. It's about tuning your radar to those unmet needs.
I like that. So once you've found a need, DeMarco's second commandment comes into play, the commandment of entry, right?
Yep. He talks about choosing businesses with what he calls barriers to entry, making it harder for others to just jump in and copy what you're doing.
Otherwise, everyone just undercuts each other on price and it becomes a race to the bottom.
He uses the analogy of a gold rush. He says, in a gold rush, don't dig for gold, sell shovels.
That's a good one. So it's about finding a niche, creating something unique, something hard to duplicate.
Right. You want to avoid getting stuck in a constant battle with competitors who can just easily replicate your product or service.
Thing like Apple, right? They've built a brand that's known for quality and design, and it allows them to charge a premium.
Exactly. And that's what gives you a competitive edge.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah. Barriers to entry help you build a more sustainable business.
Absolutely. All right, so moving on to DeMarco's third commandment, the commandment of control. He's all about, being the one calling the shots in your business.
Like not just being another cog in the machine.
Exactly. He talks about how true fast lane businesses give you that autonomy, the ability to shape the strategy and really steer the ship.
Okay, so like why he wouldn't be a fan of those franchise or distributor models where you have limited control over things like pricing.
Right, you're not really the one in charge.
You're kind of stuck with whatever the parent company decides.
Yep. And he stresses the importance of ownership and having the freedom to, shape your own destiny.
Makes sense. So once you've got a good business model, then what?
Then it's time to think about scaling things up.
Yeah.
That's where the commandment of scale comes in.
And this is where that law of affection comes in, right?
Yeah.
The whole idea that to make millions, you got to impact millions.
Exactly. He wants us to think bigger, beyond just a local business. Fast lane wealth is about serving a larger market, whether it's through products, services, or systems that can reach a massive audience.
So creating something with the potential to make a real difference in the world.
That's the goal.
Okay, and finally we have the commandment of time. This one seems to be at the heart of what makes the fast lane different from the typical 9-to-5 grind.
Definitely. It's about building a business that doesn't require you to be there all the time.
Like creating a system that generates income even when you're not actively working.
He's big on automating and systematizing as much as possible.
Leveraging technology, streamlining processes, that sort of thing.
Exactly. The idea is to detach your income from your time.
So you can focus on other things like, actually enjoying your life.
Exactly. It's like planting a money tree that just keeps producing even while you sleep.
I like that analogy. Now, DeMarco doesn't shy away from the fact that building a fast lane business is hard work, right?
Oh yeah, he's realistic about that. He says it takes effort, dedication. You got to be willing to face challenges.
But he thinks it's ultimately more fulfilling than being stuck in the slow lane.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got those 5 commandments, but he also introduces this idea of fast lane purity. What's that all about?
So it's about really evaluating a business opportunity based on how well it aligns with those 5 principles.
To make sure it's got true fast lane potential.
Right. He talks about almost getting into the limousine business, but realizing it didn't really meet the criteria for things like scale or time detachment.
So it's like a gut check, making sure you're not just fooling yourself into thinking something's a fast lane business when it's really just a glorified job.
Exactly. He wants us to be honest with ourselves.
No, it seems like he's especially enthusiastic about internet-based businesses.
He is. And it makes sense when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
The internet offers so much potential for scalability and automation.
Think like subscription services or e-commerce.
Yeah, those are perfect examples.
It's interesting how DeMarco doesn't just focus on the practical side of building a business. He also talks a lot about mindset and personal development.
He does. He believes that to be a successful entrepreneur, you need more than just a good idea. You got to have the right mindset, you know?
So it's about, overcoming those limiting beliefs and being willing to push yourself outside your comfort zone.
Exactly. He calls it deodorizing flatulent headwinds.
Okay, I gotta ask, what exactly are flatulent headwinds?
They're those negative influences, the things that hold us back, like a toxic work environment or even just our own self-doubt.
So it's about surrounding yourself with supportive people and cultivating a more positive outlook.
Right. And he also challenges us to really examine how we think about time and money.
I'm sensing a theme here.
He kind of flips the script on that whole idea that money is scarce and time is abundant.
So instead of obsessing over saving every penny, he wants us to prioritize our time.
Because time is the one thing we can't get back. We all have a limited amount of it.
That's a good point. We can always make more money, but we can't make more time.
Right. And he wants us to be more conscious of how we're spending our time, to prioritize those activities that align with our fast lane goals.
Instead of getting caught up in the busy work and distractions.
He also talks about distancing ourselves from the herd mentality, those people who just accept mediocrity and live paycheck to paycheck.
Giving in fear of taking risks.
He has this quote. Let me see. Here it is. Most people are consumers who are 2 paychecks from broke.
Oof, that's a harsh truth.
It is. But it's a wake-up call, to break free from that cycle.
So how do we do that? How do we shift our mindset and start building that fast lane life?
Well, DeMarco uses this great analogy about driving a race car.
Okay, I'm listening.
He says, you wouldn't weigh down your car with unnecessary stuff.
Because it would slow you down.
Exactly. So why are we burdening ourselves with debt and financial obligations that keep us trapped?
It's like we're putting on the brakes before we even start the race.
Right. So it's about streamlining our lives, eliminating distractions, and focusing our energy on building that future we want.
So it's not just about finding the right business idea. It's about creating a life that supports that vision.
Exactly.
Now, one thing I appreciate about DeMarco is he's very open about his own failures and setbacks. He shows that the path to success isn't always a straight line.
He definitely doesn't sugarcoat things.
Which makes him more relatable,
Yeah.
Because we all make mistakes.
He has a good quote about that, too. Something like, fear of failure is normal, but failure creates experience, and experience breeds wisdom.
So it's okay to fail as long as we learn from those experiences.
Exactly. And he also makes a distinction between what he calls intelligent risks and moronic risks.
Like investing your life savings in a get-rich-quick scheme versus quitting your job to pursue a well-thought-out business idea.
Yeah. One's a gamble, the other's a calculated risk.
You got to analyze the situation, weigh the potential rewards against the potential consequences.
He wants us to be strategic,
Yeah.
not just jumping into things blindly.
So how do we know when it's the right time to take a risk?
He doesn't really give a hard and fast rule, but he does emphasize the importance of being prepared.
Doing your research, having a plan, that sort of thing.
Exactly. You got to have some kind of safety net,
Like an emergency fund or a side hustle to fall back on.
Yeah. Don't just quit your job without having a plan in place.
And he also talks about being careful who you take advice from.
Oh, absolutely. He says to be wary of those who are all talk and no action.
The armchair experts.
He calls them sidewalk sultan wannabes.
Nice. So it's about finding mentors and advisors who have actually walked the walk, right?
Exactly. People who have achieved what you're striving for.
People who've built successful, fast-lane businesses and can offer guidance based on real-world experience.
Now, on the topic of competition, DeMarco has an interesting approach.
How so?
He says, don't obsess over your competitors.
Because it can distract you from focusing on your own business.
Exactly. He encourages us to create something truly unique and valuable, to differentiate ourselves from the crowd.
Don't just copy what everyone else is doing.
Right. He says, forget about your competition 95% of the time. The other 5% should be used to exploit their weaknesses.
That's a good strategy. So it's about finding those gaps in the market, the areas where your competition is falling short?
And focusing on exceeding customer expectations.
He also talks about the importance of building a brand, not just a business. What's the distinction there?
A business is just a transaction. But a brand, it's an emotional connection.
It's about creating a story, a feeling.
Exactly. It's why people choose certain brands over others, even if they're more expensive.
Like think of Apple or Nike. They're not just selling products, they're selling a lifestyle.
Right. DeMarco believes that having a strong brand is essential for long-term success. He even gives some tips on creating a compelling brand message.
Like what?
Well, he talks about developing a unique selling proposition, or USP.
So what makes your business different from everyone else?
Yeah, like what specific benefit do you offer that no one else does? He also stresses the importance of, cutting through the noise.
Standing out from the crowd.
Exactly. Because we're bombarded with so much advertising these days.
It's hard to get people's attention.
He suggests using strategies like polarization or emotional appeals.
To make your message more memorable.
Right. And he also emphasizes the importance of customer service, saying it can be a huge differentiator.
Yeah, good customer service can make or break a business.
He uses the analogy of a hotel. You could have a beautiful building with amazing amenities, but if the staff is rude, it's going to ruin the whole experience.
Totally.
It's the same with any business. Going above and beyond for your customers, that's what sets you apart.
It builds loyalty too.
Absolutely. And speaking of relationships, DeMarco also has some advice about business partnerships.
Oh yeah, that's important.
He compares them to marriages. He says you got to choose your partners wisely, establish clear expectations.
Because a bad partnership can really hurt your business.
He also encourages us to be careful when selecting advisors, like accountants and lawyers.
People who are going to be handling your money.
Do your due diligence, check their credentials. Don't just trust anyone blindly.
That's good advice for any aspect of life, really.
Definitely. Now, another thing DeMarco cautions against is what he calls Tickle syndrome. It's that tendency to jump from one opportunity to the next without really committing to anything.
It's like spreading yourself too thin.
He uses the analogy of polygamy versus monogamy. He says, you got to focus your energy.
Because you're not going to achieve true success if you're constantly chasing shiny objects.
Right. Choose a fast lane path and stick with it, Give it your full dedication.
So it's not just about finding the right opportunity, it's about having the discipline to see it through.
Exactly. Success takes focused effort and persistence.
It's about having that grit and determination to overcome obstacles and achieve your goals.
Now, in addition to the 5 commandments and the importance of mindset, DeMarco also offers some practical strategies for, accelerating your wealth plan.
What kind of strategies?
Well, he talks about compound interest, but he has a different take on it than the traditional save your pennies approach.
Oh, interesting.
How so?
He argues that compound interest is most powerful when applied to large sums of money.
So it's not about slowly accumulating wealth. It's about using the fast lane to build a substantial amount of capital first.
And then letting compound interest work its magic.
So use the fast lane to create the wave, then ride that wave with the power of compound interest.
Exactly. It's not that he dismisses compound interest entirely. He's just saying it's more effective when you have a significant amount of capital to work with.
Makes sense. It's like trying to sail across the ocean in a rowboat versus a sailboat.
He also stresses the importance of continuous learning. He says education begins at graduation.
I love that, because learning doesn't stop once you finish school.
Right. It should be an ongoing process. He wants us to be lifelong learners.
Especially in the fast lane where things are constantly changing and evolving.
Yeah. You got to stay ahead of the curve. So it's about being adaptable and always seeking out new knowledge and skills.
Exactly. And he also talks about the importance of automating and systematizing your business.
To free up your time, right.
Exactly. He advocates for building systems that can operate efficiently without your constant involvement.
Leveraging technology, streamlining processes, maybe hiring people to handle the day-to-day operations.
It's about working smarter, not harder.
Building a business that works for you, not the other way around.
Right. So you could focus on the bigger picture, the strategic stuff, or just, enjoy life a little bit.
It's about creating a system that can run smoothly even when you're not there micromanaging every detail.
Exactly. Now, one of the most important takeaways from the Millionaire Fastlane is the importance of taking action.
Knowledge without action is useless.
He urges us to just get started. Stop procrastinating, overcome our fears, and start taking steps towards our goals.
Even if those steps are small.
Exactly. It's about building momentum. He says to identify one specific action you can take today to move closer to your fast lane goals.
That's a good challenge.
Yeah.
What can you do right now, today, to start making progress?
It could be anything. Researching a business idea, reaching out to a mentor, or just starting to educate yourself about a new topic.
The important thing is to just do something.
Exactly. Action creates results.
It's so easy to get caught up in learning and planning, but actually taking that first step can be tough.
Oh yeah, it's definitely easier said than done.
So how do we bridge that gap? How do we go from just knowing about the fast lane to actually living it?
Well, DeMarco's all about just getting started, even if it's not perfect.
Imperfect action is better than no action.
Exactly. He says to identify one specific action you can take today to get closer to your goals.
So what's one thing you can do right now, today? Could be researching a business idea, or reaching out to someone for advice, or even just making a list of your goals.
Just something, anything to get the ball rolling.
Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just start moving.
He really emphasizes that the Millionaire Fastlane isn't just a book. It's like a call to action.
It's a challenge to break free from those traditional ways of thinking about wealth.
He wants us to question those limiting beliefs and start building a life of, true freedom and abundance.
So think about it. What's one thing you can do today to start creating that fast lane life? What need can you solve? What skill can you develop? What business idea are you curious about?
Remember, the journey to financial freedom, it's an ongoing process.
You don't need to have all the answers right now. Just start exploring.
DeMarco reminds us that the road to wealth, it's rarely ever a straight line,
There will be bumps along the way, for sure.
But by embracing a growth mindset, finding people who support you, and consistently taking action, you can achieve those fast lane dreams.
It's about being persistent, learning from your mistakes, and never giving up on that vision of the life you want.
And remember, you don't have to follow the traditional path. You can create your own lane.
The Millionaire Fastlane gives you the roadmap, but ultimately, you're the one in the driver's seat.
So buckle up and enjoy the ride.
We hope this deep dive into the Millionaire Fastlane has sparked some ideas and inspired you to rethink your approach to wealth creation.
It's definitely a book that challenges conventional wisdom and encourages us to think outside the box.
And remember, this is just the beginning of your journey. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep taking action.
There's a whole world of possibilities out there.
We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a topic that's sure to get you thinking differently.
Until then, keep seeking knowledge, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.
See you next time.